Regarding the immigration of China's rich, the current situation in Shanghai cannot be ignored. An enterprise management consultant from Shanghai said, recently it has become impossible to hide the fact that many people in Shanghai want to immigrate. The search volume for immigration has skyrocketed overnight on the Chinese search engine Baidu. Since the end of March, hot search terms like where to immigrate and how to immigrate to Canada have grown by up to 2,846%. It can be said that among every 20 WeChat users, one is considering immigration. The most searches for this topic were in Shanghai. Consequently, from April the 12th, the Monetary Authority of Singapore suddenly announced that the threshold for investment immigration increased from 15 million renminbi to 100 million renminbi. Why such a significant difference? Because for many wealthy people in Shanghai, 15 million is merely the cost of a house, but due to the number of people wishing to immigrate, the threshold naturally rises. In fact, under the leadership of the Communist Party, China is becoming increasingly closed off, and more Chinese people are hastening to leave. It's not only the rich, but also many well-educated individuals who are voting with their feet, and these elites are exactly the talent that a country needs. In 2023, the number of Chinese immigrants has increased, which isn't surprising, as pandemic control measures have been lifted, making it easier to leave the country. A Wall Street Journal article on July the 5th stated that the rising trend of Chinese immigration was evident even before the pandemic outbreak and coincided with several major economic trends since 2017, including rising youth unemployment, the party's regained control over the financial industry, and a notable structural decline in China's economic growth. With China's overall birth rate falling and the country's wealthy and societal elites choosing to leave, this is undoubtedly bad news for Beijing. This implies that, to prevent further economic slowdown, Beijing must implement more measures to convince both domestic and international talents that China is a promising place for future development. According to data from the United Nations, for most of the early 21st century, about 500,000 Chinese residents migrated overseas annually on a net basis. However, after the 2008 financial crisis in the United States, this number dropped dramatically. By the end of the 2010s, this trend began to reverse. The net migration of Chinese people rebounded to nearly 300,000 by 2018. Net migration refers to the total net immigration over a period, which is the total number of immigrants moving abroad minus the number of immigrants moving into the country each year. It includes both permanent and non-permanent residents. During the COVID-19 pandemic, China's net immigration numbers fell again, tied to the Communist Party's restrictions on overseas travel. The United Nations' latest forecast is that China's net migration will exceed 300,000 again in 2022, with net migration in 2021 standing at about 200,000. Interestingly, the United Nations data remarkably align with figures from private companies, whose focus is on a more specific demographic, the wealthy. Data compiled by New World Wealth, a company based in South Africa, and Henley Partners, an investment immigration consultancy headquartered in London, display a similar pattern. For most of the early 2010s, the net migration of China's high net worth individuals, with assets exceeding 1 million, remained steady at around 9,000 per year. But towards the end of the decade, this number began to surge. In 2017, the net migration of the wealthy surpassed 11,000, and by 2019, this number exceeded 15,000. These two companies have not released data for 2020 and 2021. However, it is certain that due to pandemic control measures, the net migration numbers would have decreased in these 2 years. Consultants estimate that after the net migration of 18,000 wealthy individuals in 2022, approximately 13,500 will leave China in 2023. Of course, immigration in itself is not necessarily a bad thing. However, this latest wave of immigration comes at a time of sluggish economic growth in China and the intensified nationalist tendencies in Beijing. It also coincides with the rapid rise of higher education in China, which has fostered an increasingly educated workforce, especially in the service industry. These individuals now face the issue of sluggish domestic job growth. Numbers from CEIC data show that since 2017, the service sector has seen an annual average growth rate of only 0.4% in employment. If 2022 is excluded, the service sector's annual growth remains only 1.4%. On the other hand, in the 5 years starting from 2017, service sector job positions have grown at an average annual rate of 4.4%. In June, the Chinese government reported the youth unemployment rate in China had hit a historic high for the second consecutive month, with the unemployment rate for the population aged 16 to 24 rising from 20.4% in April to 20.8% in May. Some college graduates, after finding job opportunities increasingly scarce, have planned to study abroad, hoping that international experience can increase their chances of securing positions either back at home or overseas. On the other hand, the increase in net migration also reflects a significant decrease in the number of foreign immigrants moving to China. According to official data from the Chinese government, the number of foreign residents in Shanghai and Beijing in 2020 was only 163,954 and 62,812 respectively, a drop of 21% and 42% compared to 2010. While the pandemic has been a significant factor forcing foreign talents to leave, given the escalating geopolitical tensions between China and the West, China's economic slowdown, and the increasing risk of foreigners being detained and investigated in China, this decline in foreign talent seems likely to persist. On June the 30th, the US Department of State updated its travel advisory for mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau, maintaining a Level 3 risk advisory, Level 3 reconsider travel, recommending US citizens reconsider travel to these areas. Given the rapidly cooling US-China relations, the risk for American citizens traveling to China has not decreased. The Department of State's travel guidance indicates that the PRC authorities appear to have broad discretion to deem a wide range of documents, data, statistics, or materials as state secrets, and to detain and prosecute foreign nationals for alleged espionage. There is increased official scrutiny of US and third country firms, such as professional service and due diligence companies, operating in the PRC. Security personnel could detain US citizens or subject them to prosecution for conducting research or accessing publicly available material inside the PRC. The guidance also mentions that the PRC government does not recognize dual nationality. Dual US PRC citizens and US citizens of Chinese descent may be subject to additional scrutiny and harassment. Moreover, if US citizens choose to enter mainland China using travel documents other than a US passport and are detained or arrested, the Chinese government may not notify the US embassy or consulate or allow consular visitation. In today's China, Beijing's increasingly focus on national security and controlling its citizens rather than economic growth has forced both Chinese and foreigners to vote with their feet. As reported by the Japanese media outlet Nikkei News, despite China reportedly having approximately 823,800 millionaires, this exodus trend could lead to tens of millions of dollars of wealth disappearing from China, further exacerbating the slowdown in China's economic growth. A report cites a Hong Kong-based executive from Henley & Partners as saying that the affluent are seeking means to relocate to other key global regions, enhancing their mobility, ensuring better access to healthcare, or enjoying greater political stability. The report suggests that Hong Kong is expected to see 1,000 millionaires emigrate this year. This would significantly hinder the efforts of the Hong Kong government to attract wealth and transform the city, a financial hub, into a center for wealth management and family office operations. Shanghai Hurun Research Institute conducted a survey on the migration of wealthy before the pandemic, which involved 980 affluent individuals with assets exceeding 10 million yuan. About half of the respondents said they invested overseas for better educational opportunities for their children, while many expressed reasons such as concerns over asset security in China's unstable economic and political environment. Chinese financial commentator Ye Tan was quoted in the Southern Metropolis Daily for saying that the wealthy's great unease about asset security is like a dark cloud looming over their heads. For affluent Chinese immigrants, the United States and Canada are the preferred destinations, with some opting for Singapore and Europe. A commentator in the Chi Lu Evening News noted that the pursuit of a better quality of life, better educational opportunities, and a sense of asset security are obviously the most important reasons. Air pollution in major Chinese cities is getting worse, traffic is chaotic, harmful substances are found in drinking water, and food safety scandals continue. These conditions are not helpful to a peaceful and productive life. Zhu Naijuan, a commentator for the 21st Century Economic Report, pointed out that even if the rich are wealthier, they still need to coexist with ordinary people or the poor under the same public system because certain things are public goods, such as breathable air, water quality, food safety, and law enforcement standards, and even the wealthy cannot escape these. China's wealth gap has repeatedly been the focus of discussion, leading to envy and tension. Many entrepreneurs listed as super rich sometimes suddenly come under judicial investigation for stock manipulation or corruption. The American anti-bribery standard-setting organization TRACE released the 2022 Bribery Risk Matrix. Among 194 countries and regions, Taiwan ranked 22nd, second only to South Korea and Singapore in Asia, while China ranked 138th, falling 3 places compared to 2021, just 4 places above Russia. A China critic residing in Canada quoted a famous saying by French novelist and playwright Balzac. "Behind every great fortune lies a crime." He said this quote can help people understand the current trend.